This is Hanratty on Karate. My name's John Hanratty. Yesterday we had our annual competition. This was our 40th annual competition, CSKA, Canadian Shotokan Karate Association. We missed a couple through COVID, so this was the 40th actual one. As usual, our rules were Shobu Ippon, which is all I've ever been involved in and all I've ever used for my competitions. Even when I was coaching a Karate Alberta team and being considered for the national coach, I insisted on Shobu Ippon rules, and it's probably why I didn't get it, because nationals eventually went with WKF rules, which I just don't use, never have done. So our competition went off wonderful. We had some great competitors, some fantastic kata, and some beautiful kumite points. Now, we don't run this exactly as per JKA Shobu Ippon rules, because we do get a variety of other styles entering the competition, and so we judge the kata on the point system, which is pretty fair. It's not like you get two people come up and you get flags, which you will do in JKA competition when they're both performing the same kata. However, I don't see the point of that when you get people performing different katas and then you try to flag one better than the other. You'd have to be an absolute expert in what both katas are looking at as regards application and timing and rhythm. We did have one strong WKF kata competitor there. Personally, I didn't like the kata. It was Unsu, which tends to be a perennial WKF favorite, and a number of points in the kata which I don't agree with came up, like the big step off before the jump. Kind of lost his balance. The Nekoashi Dachi wasn't practical to me, and the timing of the kata stopping over long in a blocking situation and stuff like that. He did very well. His marks were high, but it wasn't for me. I much preferred the tempo and the realistic applications and effectiveness of technique that you see in genuine traditional karate. And there were some good competitors, Chitaru and Rembukai, this kind. And of course, my own group, which is Shotokan. So it was quite enjoyable. And the kumite was very good. And as we use Shobu Ippon rules, of course, I always get the same questions when I'm running my officials clinics. What do you consider contact and everything else? Well, as far as I'm concerned, this is a silly question. I've been running officials clinics for years. I even ran them on an international level. I did officials clinics for WSKA. 2005 in Chicago, myself and Bob Poynton ran the officials clinic and certified the officials for that competition. And again, we got the same questions. I don't know why this question always comes up. What do you consider contact and what do you don't? So my answer is usually, well, what do you consider contact? Head snapping back, this kind of thing, just skin contact. Sundome is a concept that is used in JKA competitions, but it doesn't mean anything. If you're going to stop your technique an inch or 2 inches from the head, you can hit with full power. It doesn't matter. You don't have to control it. It's when you have to stop right on the surface of the skin or just touch that you need to control. Even some blows that go in, maybe with a little bit more force than intended, are still controlled. They didn't go through. They're still controlled. So we only had one guest official that seemed to think we were making a little bit excessive contact. But here's the thing. In 40 years of running these competitions, we have had very, very, very few injuries. Far less doctor stops on the tatami than you would get with a WKF competition. The last WKF competition I went to, they were stopping it every 3 minutes for what they perceived to be lack control or excessive contact. And most of the time it was really good points. And I've seen guys who throw themselves into a technique, take a blow, drop down to the floor and act like they've been shot. It's almost like watching football or soccer, I should call it in North America. Sometimes you get a flick of the ear and they go down and look like they've been shot with a .50 rifle or something. It's kind of ridiculous and it belittles the art. Competition is just for testing yourself. That's all it is. Hopefully you're going to learn a few things from it. You're not going to learn anything by rolling around the floor and trying to get the other guy disqualified. But it's the same when you're looking at the referees, and most of the time I'm looking at the judges and the referees and assessing their performance, if I'm not actually refereeing myself, on how they're conducting themselves throughout the competition. So when I first start any of my officials' clinics, I emphasize that we are there for the safety of the athletes, but the competition is about the athletes. It's not about us. We just make sure that everybody sticks to the rules. And no matter what happens, the best person is always going to win, okay? And we have to make sure that the best person wins. And that's basically your job within the criteria that we have written down in the rules. And we tend to follow the JKA Shobuippon rules or WSKA rules, ESKA rules. They're all pretty much the same. I like the fact that the center referee has the same votes as all of the judges, and so it balances out. But he's the one in charge. He'll start the match, he'll stop the match, he'll award the points or the penalties as required, and pretty much takes charge. He's not a kind of a slave to a flag waver in the corner, or like a recording or a visual check like VAR or something like that. We don't do that. Everybody trusts everybody. And so your attitude when you're refereeing has to be one of confidence. If you appear confident, and I don't mean arrogant, I mean confident in what you're doing, you're aware of the rules, you know what a technique will score and what technique won't score. If you're confident and you carry yourself well and you start the match off exactly as you want to carry on, then the competitors are going to have confidence in you. So I very rarely will get anybody come up to me arguing about a point I scored or didn't score. And usually I'm more than willing to explain why I scored it or why I didn't score it more often than not. It was either, distancing or off target or lack of power, or it would have been an ineffective technique had it been committed. So it's not hard to referee. And then after the competition, which went very, very well, and spot on time. I like to run my competitions spot on time. We always start on time and we always finish when I say, which is good. I mean, if you've been doing it for 40 odd years, you should know how long it takes to do, say, 90 or 100 kata competitors in a couple of rings, or how long kumite is going to go on for and stuff like that. It's not hard to set your timing and your schedule. So we finished, packed up, everybody was pretty happy. There was an occasional, I could have done this, I could have done that, by different people. But nobody, I think, was upset. We usually get the same clubs coming back every year. So I went for a pint after at the pub just around the corner from my house with the president of Canadian Shotokan. And we got talking about different competitions. And Robert, who's the president of Canadian Shotokan, he's been with me, years and years. I started a club in Fort McMurray in 1982 or 83. I was working up in the oil fields there. My job took me pretty much all over Western Canada. I was involved in hydraulics. And I used to do a fair amount of work up in the oil fields, Syncrude and Suncor mines. There was two clubs there at the time. Now, they weren't very well established. One was run by a green belt and the other one was run by a brown belt. And these were guys who come in from, say, Nova Scotia or some other province and had previously trained there. So there was two clubs there. And as soon as I got into town, I was approached, would I teach one evening at this club? And I said, sure. So I went there, and then I was approached by the other club, would I teach there? One of them wasn't quite Shotokan, but they were happy for the fact that a black belt had come along and a little bit more knowledge than they had and could show them where they were going. So I said, yeah, I'll come up, because I was pretty much up in Fort McMurray about every 6 weeks anyway. I said, but you guys have to amalgamate and we'll just run it as one club. And we did that. We did that, I can't remember if it was 82 or 83. Anyway, Robert eventually took over the instruction of that club, and all the while he was at Syncrude until he retired, and then he moved down to Edmonton, Spruce Grove, where he started a club there. So we were just talking, because Robert's been pretty much every WSKA competition with me as an assistant coach or whatever. I've been doing the politics and he's been doing the coaching, or team manager, if you like. So it got me thinking about the different competitions. Now, I think I mentioned before that I was invited over to Ferrara in Italy in 1989 when they were forming World Shotokan Karate Association. This was an ESKA event, European Shotokan Karate Association event, and I was invited over by Charlie Naylor and Ted Edlund and all these guys, usual crowd of guys who ran ESKA at the time. And we formed WSKA in Ferrara in 89, and I was asked to put on the first WSKA competition in Calgary in 91, which I agreed to do. So that was the WSKA portion of the meeting that took place there. The other portion of the meeting was the ESKA competition, which was in Ferrara, which was quite amazing, actually. It was one of the best competitions I've been to. It was, if the guys yesterday thought that there was a little bit of excessive contact, they should have been at that competition. It was strong, it was hard, but I didn't see a single complaint. I do remember Frank Brennan got disqualified in the final match against an Italian guy, just about wiped his nose off his face. But some of the footage you can see on the Legend Productions, what were originally Kamai videotapes, and some of the fights from that competition are amazing. Now, I had invited Ray Dalkey, chairman of the AJKA, to come with me to see if he wanted to take up membership in WSKA. And he was only maybe like an hour into that competition when he said, I'm joining. This is the karate I joined for. This is what I joined karate for. This kind of competition, this kind of spirit, this kind of technique. It just blew him away. And I can't blame him. So I went back from that competition with a mandate to start proceedings to organize a competition in 1991 in Calgary. Prior to that, in 1990, I got invited over to Boat Shop for the Nakayama Cup. And this was in Oishi's dojo in Boat Shop. Nakayama Cup was a unique kind of competition. Each country sent two fighters, or two representatives rather, and they got aggregate points for kata and kumite. Now, I could be wrong, but I think Ronnie Christopher took it for the UK that year, as far as my memory goes back. But it was a great competition, and what really sticks in my mind was the hospitality shown by Oishi. He threw a fantastic after party from the competition. It just blew everybody away. We had so much fun, and there was so much camaraderie and mutual spirit in that competition. It was unbelievable. So I went back to Calgary thinking, okay, I've got to do something as good as that, but I've got to organize it for a full show whipping competition, not just 2 men per team. So it was a lot of hard work. And once I put it all down on paper and I looked at the budget, I thought, oh my God, I'm going to have to sell the house or something like that. But I worked my way around it. I went round. I got some sponsorship from the city, from the tourism board and places like this. And we put on our competition in September 1991. I'd hired a pipe band, a Calgary Pipes and Drums, and a couple of my students were RCMP. So they came in the RCMP uniforms to lead the march on. So it was successful. We opened it up well. We had 29 countries involved, which I believe, and I was involved with WSKA for a long, long time, was the largest number of countries that entered in any WSKA competition. It went really smoothly. We had some really strong competitors, particularly from Sweden and Norway, and Willie Helmut brought people from Finland as well. There was some teams from Malaya. We had a South African representative, but it wasn't my friend Malcolm Dorfman's group. We had a couple all the way from Australia, which was kind of good. And all in all, it was a great competition. Now, talking about contact and Budo spirit, I remember the guy from, I think it was Sweden. He got cracked right in the mouth. Couldn't have been Sweden, because I think it was Leslie Jensen from Sweden who committed the foul. He smacked him right in the mouth, splits his lip. The English doctor who'd been made doctor for the competition at the time came on and put in stitches in his lip where his tooth had split it. put the stitches in, and the guy carried on. I think Leslie was given a chewy, and that was it. So that was the kind of spirit that we were fighting on there, and that kind of control, straight away, everybody knew that was excessive force. You didn't have to go and ask anybody if it was excessive force. You just knew it was, and that was it. So in that competition, Frank Brennan got overall competitor for, I think, how many points he'd accrued in Kumite, Team Kumite, and Kata. And overall, the English team won. I think the German or Swedish team came second. I can't remember. I don't have the results in front of me, but I do have them tabulated in my files. I don't remember that the individual Kumite was won by Dean Hodgson. Is a name from the past. You guys might know him. He's pretty much a fitness guru right now, very big in the fitness world. Dean had an unusual style of fighting. And this kid I was refereeing I always referee the black belt division final match in my competition, even though I'm getting on a bit. This kid yesterday, I felt like grabbing him. He fought just like Dean. If you've ever seen Dean fight, he tends to circle his opponent, side skipping all the way around the ring, kind of gets the guy completely off balance, and then he'll come in and score with something. Well, I had a kid doing this yesterday, and it was tiring. It was tiring. I could hardly walk when we finished. I wasn't chasing him around the ring. I was just kept repositioning so that I can see when the points are coming in. And I tend to do that a lot. When I start off a match, I position myself about 35, 45 degree angle to the fighters so I can see the both angles. And I'll occasionally switch to the other side. So I'm moving 90 degrees, but from 45 to 45. I tend to stay in my own half of the ring. Or maybe you get somebody like this kid yesterday was circling around like crazy. It makes it very hard to do that, but it's not impossible. So anyway, that was good. And as I say, the 91 championships were fantastic. Now, WSKA holds the championships every 2 years, and there's been some absolutely memorable ones. And what I was going to do was kind of go through a few of them, but I'll just give you the first couple. So 91 was great. Great Britain won the team event, team kata event as well. And pretty sure a Swedish girl took the individual kata. Team ladies kata was won by England. Canada, we were lucky enough to get a bronze in the team kata. I'm not sure if anybody got. I'd have to have a look at the results and apologize for not checking it out before I started this little chat. Anyway, it was a great time. And afterwards, I'd hired one of the local nightclubs, the whole nightclub. It was called Claudio's. And we went over to Claudio's, and the only team that didn't take tickets for the after party was Austria. They were a good, strong team. I can't remember the Japanese instructor they had at the time, but he didn't really want to go. So we all went over there. We had our best presentations there, for best tournament fighter and all the rest of it. And we had a wonderful dinner, a great band. Everybody just had an absolute blast. And then I spotted the Austrians who had been sightseeing around Calgary, which is a nice enough city, but September's when we start to get a little bit of rain coming in and stuff like that. We get some pretty awesome storms rolling through, thunder, lightning, and hail, and that's what was happening outside. So I walked over to the door. I spotted them through the window. I walked over to the door and said, "Come on, get in. It's stupid you guys not showing up when everybody else is here." And it was just great. There's nothing like the spirit of karate competitors when they all get together in the after party. And I've experienced this lots of times with different teams over the years in different venues and different parts of the world. When we all get together afterwards, we're all doing the same thing. We all follow the same path. Everybody is like brothers, and you act like it. They're all family, and it's wonderful to see people that you see maybe only every couple of years, but you keep in touch with, and it's just like having family come home for dinner or something like that. So that was 91. In 93, we went to Saarbrücken in Germany. It's on the border of Germany and France, Saarbrücken. I took a smaller team. We couldn't have the same big team that we'd had in Calgary. It was our hometown, so we could afford to put a big team up. So in Saarbrücken, we just took a big number of competitors and myself, and it was an interesting competition. Went like crazy, some really fierce competitors, particularly from the Dutch team, I noticed. And again, the after party was absolutely brilliant. I remember one of the Irish guys getting up on the table and everybody had had a few drinks. He decided to do his Magic Mike impression. Of course, Magic Mike wasn't around then, so he improvised. But I remember quite a few of the girls were putting coins and notes into his underpants as he danced along the tabletops. Anyway, it was a lot of fun. After that competition, I'd managed to wangle a couple of weeks off. And so we'd rented a car, and I took myself and a couple of my competitors with me, Chris Walker, John Wessels, really good competitors, these guys. And we drove all the way down to the south of France. But we went through Germany on the way to a place called Niersteiner, which makes wine. And it's just outside of Frankfurt and Mainz. And we were in time for the wine festival. And the place we stayed at, we got bed and breakfast at, was above the winery. So it smelt like crazy. You know, you could almost get drunk on the fumes. And I'd arranged for a boat trip up the Rhine the next day. So next day I get up and head down to the boat station. There's no sign of the guys. But they eventually showed up, and they were still hammered. One of the guys couldn't find his way back from the festival to where we were staying and had slept in the gutter, so he looked like hell anyway. So we get on the boat, and I think they spent the entire boat trip up the Rhine in the washroom cleaning themselves up or whatever they were doing. And then eventually we took the train back down to Niersteiner and picked up the car again and proceeded to drive down through Germany, Switzerland, through the Stello Pass and down into the south of France. So these guys, tough competitors, young guys, really good looking, in the 20s. We're in Antibes. We stayed at a little place in Antibes. And we go to the beach. Well, of course, French Riviera beaches, and particularly in Antibes, which is where all the extremely rich people park their yacht when they're not standing on the bow and pretending to be sailors. And they have an agency there. And this agency, the sole function of the agency is to supply girls to work the yachts, either as waitresses or just stand on the gangplank and welcome in. Of course, they're all really beautiful. So when they're not working, they're on the beach. And Antibes has probably got the only sandy beach along that coast. Most of it's pebbly, Nice and places like that. So we go to the beach, and of course, being the French Riviera, all they wear is a little thong. And that's it. So these two guys persisted in just staring out to sea rather than look at what was on show on the beach, which I thought was hilarious. But, you know, Canadian boys tend to be shy in those instances. And same thing happened actually with the Welsh team once when I was in Zurich, but it's another story. Anyway, so that was 93, Saarbrücken. We did quite well there. Not as well as I'd hoped, but we didn't take a big team. So 95, the competition went back to England, went to England really for the first time, the WSKA competition, and it was held in Sunderland. Sunderland, right next to Newcastle, is pretty much a party town, and we had a fantastic time. Apart from the competition, which was just amazing. I mean, Sunderland was still buzzing from 1990 when the England team had beaten Japan in Sunderland. And you can see all of those on the Legend tapes, or the old Kamai tapes, whichever one you've got. And some of the fights that we had in the WSKA in 95 were just as good, if not better, than what happened in 1990. So it was a fantastic time. And afterwards, the organisers, the Sunderland group, put on a most fantastic show. We had all the officials, including myself, we got dragged off for a civic dinner with the Mayor of Sunderland, which was very nice, but we all had to wear ties and all the rest of it. While the rest of the group, all the competitors, they were all in the local aqua centre, swim pool, where they had a wave pool and all this, and they'd had a party there where everybody was in their swim trunks and just splashing around, having a great time. I got back later, And I rushed into the changing room to get changed, and I was with Gord Matthew, actually a Scottish coach at the time, and I'm getting changed, and a guy came in from California. I'm not going to mention his name, but he was a real pillock. I'd done a class in California, I'd done a camp in California a few years previously. Ray Dalkey had asked me to teach, and it was in Idlewild, which is up in the San Bernardino Mountains, and it was scorching, and my classes tend to be quite, you're going to move. You come into a class, you're going to learn a technique, you're going to practice a technique, you're going to apply a technique, and that's the way I work. Same with the combinations, the drills, anything you do, you're going to work it until you know that you can use it. And so I was teaching this class, and I noticed this guy, and he was only about my size, which isn't very big, but he was sitting down at the front and he's taking notes. And he was in a gi. And then we all line up, and I said to Ray, "What's he doing?" He said, "Oh, he's got the next class. He's taking notes and, all the rest of it." I said, "Why didn't he get in line with everybody else, for, bow in and bow out, moxo and all that stuff?" He said, "Oh, it's just the way he is. He doesn't do that." So I found out that this guy was taught at one of the University of California campuses at Redland. And that's the way he did it. But it was his attitude of, he kind of took notes from everybody else. And then I join in every class. When I'm teaching at a camp, I'll finish whatever I'm doing. And if you're the next instructor, I'm going to be in your class as well. Why not? You can learn from everybody. And so I joined in his class. I practically taught the same class that I taught. I was really miffed about it. I'm thinking, hang on, I've just done this. And I think I had a little bit more in-depth knowledge of what he was trying to get across. So I said to Ray, who's taking the final class of the camp, try to get a lineup going. So Ray said, yeah. So I'm trying my best to get opposite this guy in Kumite. We were only doing like a couple of tacks, like Kizami, Geyak, Maigeri, something like that. And my mate Andy Holmes was there. Andy from Southport, trained by Steve Cattle and also Terry O'Neill a fair bit. Anyway, Andy was also a baby Bobby around Liverpool when I was driving cabs, so we knew each other. We'd been at Crystal Palace a lot. Anyway, I said to Andy, I want to try get opposite that guy. And Andy said, sure, no problem. So we're working around. The guy comes up opposite Andy, and Andy just switches places with me. So I went at him, and, I just showed him this is what I can do. Anyway, at this reception that we were having in the wave pool in Sunderland, I'm getting changed out of my shirt and tie and official's uniform to put on some swim trunks and get into the pool and have a laugh with all the teams and the boys. And this guy comes in complaining, oh, you went a bit hard when I was... And I guess he'd had a few drinks. And Good and Matthew's standing there looking at him. And I was trying to keep calm. I just turned around and said, look, that's over. That's past. I'm here to enjoy myself. The competition's over. So say what you got to say and get out. Because if you don't, I'm going to gob you. And Gordon looks at me, puts a little snigger on his face, but this guy just didn't want to shut up. So Jody says, are you going to gob him, John? In his broad Scottish accent. I said, I just might, Jody. And this guy just would not shut up. So I went past, and as I went past, I just heel palmed him. It wasn't very hard, just heel palmed him, caught him round under the chin. He went flying backwards and into the showers. And Gordy's standing there, just flicks the shower on. And then we both walked out into the swimming pool. Anyway, that was memorable for that time, I thought. Ray Dalkey was laughing his head off when he found out about it, and so was most people, but unfortunately, I didn't mean to embarrass him that much, and I thought Jody flicking the shower on was a coup de grace, so it's kind of nice. Anyway, so that was Sunderland, that was 95, and that was just an excellent competition. So I'll leave it there. I'll catch up on a few of the WSKA competitions, and I'm going to look up the results. I've still got them. I'm going to look up the results. I'll give you the results of each competition as we get to it. So thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you again next week.